project has had huge implications, and that goes back to my original intentions. I said for it. I mean, ultimately, it started off as my New Year's resolution that I was going to do this project, and that was going to be my New Year's resolution to complete it. But above and beyond that, the idea of doing that New Year's resolution and completing it was about teaching myself to stick to good habits, to stick to things I say, stick to things I say I'm going to do and then I will do them, opposed to saying things I'm going to do and then not doing them. Because that's always irritates me about people in the world. They say they're going to do something and they don't do it. So now I'm in a mindset where I only ever say I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to push myself to do. I don't say something I'm not going to do. I think something like this, it's one of those things which it's a habit. If you keep doing it, it becomes a habit. And as a result of that habit, you start to look at the world and your life in it very differently. That's probably the main reason why I'm doing it. I like the idea of focusing in on specific things of each day of your life throughout a year. It's the little things that make up life. So yeah, I suppose that's the main reason why I'm doing it. Hello, it's been a very long time no see, and welcome to the long-awaited and long overdue retrospective for my 366 frames project, the project where I took 366 photos throughout 2012, one photo a day. Monumental. I have completed it. I managed to take a photo every day for a whole year. I'm very proud of it. However, it's been a while since I've addressed the project. Well, as soon as I did the final photo, as you can see, I uploaded it, and then that was the last I saw of it for quite a while. I was for two reasons mainly. Firstly, I'd had enough of it. I wanted to get away from it for a while, and secondly, I just didn't have time to address the finality of it. And really, that was something I always wanted to do. I wanted to set it up. I can't wait to get started. Do the project. Yes, I'm still here. Yes, I have been doing it. Yes, I fully intend to keep doing it. And then pay it off. Because for me, it was more than just a photography project. It was about personal development, about exploring, the medium of photography, the medium of blogging, the medium of video making, vlog content making, so to speak, and really the whole blog I wanted to be its own project, so to speak, and this is really my conclusion to it. The idea for doing this came about when I first saw someone else's 365 project earlier this year. I think it was in about probably May, and I was immediately taken by the idea. I thought, wow, that's something I wouldn't mind having a go at. And I did think about starting it earlier this year, but two things stopped me really, and the first was I didn't really want to start in the middle of the year. In my mind, it made more sense to start at the beginning of a new year, so hence why I've held it off until now. Second reason was I didn't actually have a camera. Well, I did have a camera, but it got broken on the holiday, so yeah, I didn't really have a high quality camera I could have used to take a picture every day. This is the type of project anybody can do, and especially today with smartphones, with iPads, you can take a photo on pretty much any handheld device now, and you can do it in any place, so to speak. So I mean, it's something that everyone can do, and I would encourage everyone to do it, because taking pictures isn't for the elite anymore. I mean, if you want to be professional at it, it certainly is for the elite. But just taking general photos, not worrying too much about the technical constraints of the artistic aesthetics of getting it perfect towards the guidelines, so to speak, it's not something everyone has to do, because most people keep it on automatic anyway. So I mean, it's certainly something I would encourage everyone to do, and something I'm glad I've done now, because before I did it, I only occasionally took photos at events. It was not something I did on a daily basis, and now I have done it on a daily basis. It's taught me many things about taking photos, about framing, and in particular about framing. I wouldn't say that my technical ability has improved so much from doing the project, because I just tended to stick to automatic settings and fiddle with the photos in post-production and on the computer later. but in terms of setting up a photo, how you frame it, and the meaning you can create from that framing, the spacing within the photo, so foreground, midground, background, you know, the type of lighting you have on it, you know, you've got a bit of a shadow going on here, and trying to demonstrate a framing setup here is really something I feel has improved greatly as a result of doing this project. It's influenced my filmmaking. My filmmaking has improved from taking it, and I think ultimately my point of view, because it was always about point of view. This project was about presenting my point of view from 366 individual point of views that were representative of my point of view from from each day of an entire year. So in that respect, I think it's a very good project to do. However, I think that in my previous vlogs, I think I worry too much about adhering to guidelines. Yeah, guidelines. I couldn't. What were some of the guidelines I came up with? Whenever I took a picture, it always had to be from my own point of view. I didn't really like the idea of switching aspect ratios. I wanted to find one aspect ratio that I could stick with. Not post-edit my photos, so the photos as I'll present them were going to be as they were taken. That very quickly went out the window. But I was worried too much about sticking to rules, and I think one of the negative things that came from that is some days I take a photo that I wasn't necessarily very proud of, because it didn't adhere to the guidelines I'd set. But actually, looking back on it now, I can see the merits of those photos, because they are representative of days when I wasn't on top form. Because that's what ultimately why I didn't like them, because there were some photos I just took them because I'd run out of time, I'd forgotten about it, or I just didn't have the effort that day. But ultimately, because the photos aren't that good, they're representative of how I was feeling that day, which is good, because that fills the point of the project. That's representative of my point of view from, you know, the different days of a whole year. So I think if that's one instance where it's changed my mindset, my attitude, because now I can look back on it now and I think, well, actually I need to be less harsh on myself. I need to be more open-minded, and certainly I am now, because this has shown me that, you know, it benefits from being open-minded. That, you know, there are many possibilities you can get from one single instance, so to speak. And yeah, I mean, that respect's been good. I mean, in terms of the blog itself, the name, you notice, has changed. Initially it was called initially I'd assumed that 2012 was just going to have 365 days in it, but it was right at the last minute I actually discovered that 2012 was in fact a leap year, and hence why I've had to put a sticky note onto the banner, because initially it was the blog was just going to be called 365 Frames a Year, which was a name I liked, but I've had to resort to this longer title to explain, no, it is in fact a 366 project. It's not ideal, but I'm going to have to stick with it now. It was irritating me a bit, the original title I had, so I changed it to 36 Frames 2012, which I like a lot more. The project itself kind of evolved as I was doing it in that respect. I made too much effort with this project to try and make it pristine throughout. Like, I wanted it to be like a perfect kind of like photo album type thing, where really it was, I should have just treated it as exactly as it was. It was a scrapbook, so to speak. It was an ongoing project. It was a notebook that I'd scribble in. You know, that's the way I should have looked at it, and ultimately how I look at it now. I mean, doing this retrospective, not initially doing it in January, initially annoyed me because it went against that aesthetic. But now that I've learned from it, doing it now actually makes more sense. I think certainly 6 months down the line, because I can be have more distance from it, so I can be much more critical and reflective on it. And the equipment I used changed slightly. And when I started the project, I didn't have a smartphone or a tablet. I now have an iPad, by the way. I'm filming this on an iPad. But I took photos the old-fashioned way with a camera. It sounds a bit odd, but everyone else had a smartphone. I didn't have a smartphone. Kind of annoyed me, but because I'd have loved just to whip my smartphone out and take a photo quickly and then upload it straight onto the blog or whatever. But no, I did it the old-fashioned way. I took photos, and I tend to take quite a few photos each day. I tend to be quite compulsive. I tend to take several photos of the same thing, slightly different framing, you know, maybe slightly different lighting if I moved the position, so to speak. And I think ultimately, because I kept all the photos, even the ones I didn't use, and I can't remember what the final figure was, but I worked out that with all the photos combined, I'd done the 366 project 16 times over. And then I found some more photos. So I've actually done it nearly 18 times over. The ones I put on the blog represent the ones I was most happiest with, although looking back through some of the alternative ones, I tend to question my judgment now, because I think some of the alternative ones do have their merits as well. And but anyway, back to the equipment I was using. I was using my initial camera. It was a little silver thing which got broken halfway through. Oh yeah, I did it while trying to create a better framed version of this picture. It slipped off the wine rack, smashed against the kitchen floor, and now the lens is refusing to work, so I'm going to have to get that fixed. However, that's not going to stop me from completing this project, because as I've already said, I can use the camera on my phone, and as I've already said, the quality of photos isn't great, but at least it's available. Or I can use the camera that's in my video camera. Well, the quality of the footage from the video camera, as you can probably tell, is reasonably good. The quality of photos is, like the camera on my phone, not great, but maybe I can work with that. Maybe I can use the grittiness or the blurred effect it tends to create to my advantage, to create photos that artistically are quite different to the ones I have been producing. So yeah, I mean, a broken camera won't stop me. I'm certainly going to keep going. So I replaced it with another tiny camera, which wasn't as good, but it was better than my phone, and certainly than my JVC camcorder. The technology was a bit iffy. It wasn't always reliable, so to speak. It was a bit fiddly, because I'd have to take it on my camera, and then at the end of the day I'd have to come home, pull all the photos off my camera, post-edit them on my computer, upload them, and I used to do that every single day. Some days I would stockpile my photos and not upload them till the end of the week. In fact, my laptop, the original hard drive in it, died last summer, so I went about a month without a computer, and I was only able to do it at uni. And generally I would upload all my photos in one go the following week, and that got really, really tedious, because I just wanted to get out of the way on the day, which is why I preferred a smartphone, because, you know, I could have just done it for Instagram, taken a photo, put a filter on it, done. But yeah, so the technology wasn't always with me, but I got there in the end. However, now, you know, I now have thank sanity, I have an Apple iPad now, one of the mini ones, and I love using it because I can take photos with it, I can make videos with it, I can edit videos on it, I can edit photos on it. It's relatively small, so I can take it anywhere, just whip it out. And being small, it's got a big screen. I love the size screen on it, because you can just see what you're filming, you can see what you're taking a photo of, which you don't always get when you're looking through a viewfinder on a tiny little screen. It's tend to bug me quite a lot, so I like quite a big screen. However, this is my New Year's resolution. This project. That's the way I'm looking at it. How has this project ultimately benefited me? In my mind, this is a New Year's resolution that I can achieve, because it's taking a photo each day, which isn't hard. Alright, selecting different content to take each day that you haven't necessarily taken before is hard, but actually taking a photo each day isn't hard. So in my mind, it's easy to achieve, and the great thing about it, because I'm doing it every day, it shows my commitment to achieving that New Year's resolution. I think there's many ways I could talk about how the effects this project have bled through into other aspects of my life and the projects I've worked on. But I think if I'm going to give you a straight and quick answer, the fundamental way it has benefited me is subconscious. And I think that's certainly why it's had a much more powerful impact on me, because this project, it has taught me a simple truth. And once you realise this simple truth, it's something you can exploit and use for anything in your life, really. And that simple truth is, how do you motivate yourself? That's a question I've been asked quite a few times in the last 6 months, because in the last 6 months in particular, I've adopted a new type of mindset and attitude, which has mainly become as a result of doing this project. And the question I've been asked is, how do I keep myself motivated? And I say, well, that's a misconception, because people, when they ask me that, they say, look, I'm not motivated, I need to get motivated. How do I start getting myself motivated? You know, how do I kick myself into doing something? I say, well, you've got the wrong mindset. It's not about motivation. Motivation comes later. What you need to start with is habit. It's going to be adapting to a new habit. And this is what I'm really hoping to achieve from it, because as a habit, it's going to be asking me to be more critical and selective about what I show of the world each day. You know, whether it's something I'm used to seeing of the world, as well as being things I'm not used to seeing of the world. So I'm hoping that this continual habit every day for a whole year, eventually, by the end of it, it will change the way that I naturally perceive and experience the world. You have to adopt better habits, new habits, because ultimately everything is habits. And this is what this project has been. It's been taking a photo each day for a whole year. And what I've done there is I've taken the habit of taking a photo one day. I've repeated it the next day, then I've repeated it the next day, and then I've repeated it the next day. And I've kept doing it, and it got me eventually into a cycle where it just became second nature. I didn't even have to put any effort into doing it. I just did it because I got into that mindset of continuously doing it. That habit was established. So motivation comes from establishing strong habits. Once you've got a habit that just does it itself, the motivation is there. You don't even need to put effort into it. You do it. It comes to a point where you literally just you do it, basically. And that's the most strongest positive impact this project has had on me. It's teach me that new attitude, that new mindset, and really that is the attitude and mindset I've applied to the other areas of my life and my my university life in particular, because that has been my life for the past a couple of years, and really in the last 6 months from the conclusion of this project, or indeed even before that, to the beginning of my third year back in September, the transformation has really occurred, because this year I've just gone at it full pelt. I came into the year knowing that if I wanted to do well, I needed to establish good habits. And the only way I was going to do that was just by keep pushing myself to doing the same, not necessarily the same thing again, but keep pushing myself to improve myself, to get those new habits established. And I think certainly I have done that now, because now that I'm finished, my grades speak for themselves. I've got firsts in all my final year modules. One of those firsts was the highest mark of the module, my creative enterprise project. I think my dissertation is possibly also the highest mark of the module, although I need to verify that. So I think, this project has had huge implications. And again, that goes back to my original intentions. I said for it. I mean, ultimately it started off as my New Year's resolution that I was going to do this project, and that was going to be my New Year's resolution to complete it. But above and beyond that, the idea of doing that New Year's resolution and completing it was about teaching myself to stick to good habits, to stick to things that say, stick to things that I say I'm going to do and then I will do them, opposed to saying things I'm going to do and then not doing them. Because that's always irritated me about people in the world. They say they're going to do something and they don't do it. So now I'm in a mindset where I only ever say what I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to push myself to do. I don't say something I'm not going to do. So this project is, I think, surprisingly, it's had huge implications. I think even above and beyond what people would, think it would obviously have, just being a basic, way of exercising my photographic skills, which it has done. But above and beyond that, it's done so much more. And I think that has a lot to say about myself, my point of view, and how I can work with things and make them into bigger things, so to speak. And I think ultimately this project now is it's a scrapbook portfolio of a little experiment I did one year in 2012, and I think it is a huge testament to how I changed through that year. And you can see how I changed through that year because you've got my point of view from that year, 366 of them. This time next year, I can look back at it and say, yes, I've achieved my New Year's resolution. One, because I have 366 photos to show for it, and which chronicle my year. And two, because as a result of doing this project, the way that I look at the world and the way that I enjoy the world, it has changed as a result of it. So certainly then, what I'm looking to gain from this project is for it to change me. I think in that sense, it's a very good New Year's resolution to have. So yeah, I can't wait to get started. So I'm very glad I've taken the project. I'm hugely pleased that I managed to complete it. I know not everyone manages to complete their 366 projects, but I'm ecstatically proud of the fact I've got so much more from it. And would I do another 366 project or 365 project? You bet your arse I would. And I certainly plan to do, but only once I've moved from Bath and have a different landscape to photograph. It's something I'd recommend everyone to do. Everyone can make... You don't even have to do it the way the guidelines say you need to do it. You can make it personal, like I've done. You can do video blogs alongside it, You do whatever you want to do it. But I just think just do it because it's good. It teaches you habits. It teaches you how to self-discipline yourself. And as I've explained, you get great things from it. So, yeah, I'm going to stop ranting. I'm going to bring this to a final conclusion. So, okay, yes, in the first vlog I had a quote. It was all about what we see, and we only ever see, a tiny bit of our vision. We have this huge field of vision, but we only use a small part of it. That's our focal point. And the project was about expanding beyond that focal point, broadening what I perceive of the world, broadening my mindset. And has it done that? Well, I've already said yes, it has. I'm glad it has. So this project, testing at times, the technology wasn't always cooperative, but I got there in the end, and I certainly got a lot more from it. So yeah, I hope you enjoy looking at it. If you do look at it, you don't have to look at it, but if you do, great. And this is my project, and it will stand testament now for everything I put into it and everything I got from it. So yes, I'd like to say thank you. Well, I'd like to say thank you to my project. Thank you, because you've changed my life. So yeah, here's to whatever I do next.